Good morning. This is the Adult Sunday School class, and we have been studying Matthew chapter 28. And we're continuing our study of Matthew chapter 28, which is the last book of Matthew, starting in verse 9. I think after this lesson we might have one more lesson, and then of course we get to start our lessons on world religions. So I'm very excited about that. But starting in verse 9 of Matthew chapter 28, it reads, "And as they went to tell the disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, All hail! And they came and held him by the feet and worshipped him. Then said Jesus unto them, Be not afraid. Go tell my brethren that they go into Galilee, and there shall they see me." The women met Jesus as they obeyed the command to tell the news of the resurrection. When Jesus met them, he said, Rejoice. What else could Jesus say to these women? What else could they do other than rejoice? The Old King James Version translates rejoice with all hail. France observes, hail represents the normal Greek greeting, an almost homely hello, in contrast with the fearsome appearance of the angel. That Jesus basically had walked up to him and said, Hi, here I am. Just like you would, greeting somebody normally. It was, them, it blew their minds. They go, it's true. He's resurrected. He's like, hey, I told you I was going to come back. Hello. How are y'all doing? It's like us Okies would be like, hi, y'all. That's what Jesus said. He's like, hey, just hello. When the women met Jesus, they felt compelled to worship him. An hour before, they thought everything was lost because they thought Jesus was dead. Now they knew everything was gained because Jesus was alive. Notably, Jesus received the worship of these ladies. If Jesus were not God, it would have been terribly sinful for him to receive this worship. But being God, it was good and appropriate for him to receive it. Jesus told the women to do the same thing the angel told them to do, to go tell the brethren, let everybody know that I am alive. This is the first time our Lord called his disciples by this endearing name, my brother. They no doubt thought that their Lord would reproach them with their past and cowardice and infidelity. But in speaking thus, he gives them a full assurance in the most tender terms, and that all was past was buried forever. That was past. So Jesus didn't care about what they had done. It's just like once you get saved, your past doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what you do for the Lord now. Moving on to verse 11. And when they were going, behold, some of the watch came into the city and showed unto the chief priests all the things that were done. And when they were assembled with the elders and had taken counsel, they gave large money unto the soldiers, saying, Say ye, his disciples came by night and stole away while we slept. And if this come to the governor's ears, we will persuade him and secure you. So they took the money and did as they were taught. And this is the same commonly reported among the Jews until this day. Now, in the past lesson, we learned that the soldiers that were there to secure the body of Jesus, that had they failed to do their job, they could be punished even with death. Now, the Sanhedrin is saying, he says, look, you know what? I want you to lie. I want you to lie. Hello?
Come on in, Bella.
Hi, Bella.
Nothing new here, Bella. We got out of order. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. It's like I saw somebody looking at him like, well, I was like, well, you come in. But the Sanhedrin said that, look, we will vouch for you. We will make sure nothing bad happens. Just lie for us. This cover-up attempt shows the darkness of these priests. They knew the truth of the resurrection, yet they rejected that truth. When speaking of a large sum of money, the Greek is literally sufficient money. It would need to be large. The cover-up also shows their foolishness. If it was true that the guards were asleep They could not know that it was his disciples that stole the body of Jesus. How would they know who stole it? If they were asleep and it happened, they wouldn't know they don't know who stole the body. To believe this, we have to believe all the soldiers were asleep, all of them. All the soldiers violated the strict law of the Roman military against sleeping on watch, punishable by death. All the soldiers slept so deeply that none of them were awakened by the work and exertion of the noise necessary to roll away the stone and carry out the body. All the soldiers were so soundly asleep, yet they knew who it was that did it. Clark rightly comments, here is a whole heap of absurdities. Though that through the years there have been many objections suggested to the resurrection of Jesus. Some say he didn't die at all. He just swooned or fainted on the cross and spontaneously revived in the tomb. Others say he really died, but his body was stolen. Still others suggest he really died, but his desperate followers who hallucinated his resurrection. A plain, simple understanding of these evidences of the resurrection of Jesus answers all of these theories and shows they take far more faith to believe than the Bible account does. That simply believing that Jesus was indeed the Son of the living God and that he was resurrected is much easier than to try to justify the lies and manipulations that people try to do. I suppose, brethren, that we may have persons arise who will doubt whether there was ever such a man as Julius Caesar or Napoleon Bonaparte. And when they do, when all reliable history is flung to the winds, then, but not until then, they begin to question whether Jesus rose from the dead. For this historical fact is attested by more witnesses than almost any other fact that stands on record in history, whether sacred or profane, is written by Spurgeon. We sometimes sing, you ask me how I know he lives. He lives. He lives inside my heart. We sing that song. But that is not the best way to prove Jesus lives. He lives because the historical evidence demands we believe in the resurrection of Jesus. If we can believe anything in history, we can believe the reliable, confirmed testimony of these eyewitnesses. Jesus rose from the dead. Moving on to verse 16. Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee, into a mountain where Jesus had appointed them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Matthew doesn't tell us about the Jerusalem appearance of Jesus to his disciples as John does. Matthew was more interested in showing that the promise of Jesus in Matthew 26:32 was fulfilled. The meeting place would be some familiar haunt, only imperfectly recorded in the Gospels. When speaking about when they saw him, they worshipped him. This was not their first meeting with the risen Jesus, but it was an important one. At this meeting, they received their apostolic commission. When speaking about they worshipped him, but some doubted, the natural reaction to encountering the risen Jesus is worship, even as some had to overcome uncertainty and hesitation, like Thomas, probably from feeling it was too good to be true, and lingering shame from having forsaken Jesus during his suffering. You know, the truth is, let's think about it as ourselves. If you lived in that time period and somebody told you that you're a follower of Jesus, somebody said that he is risen, you're not going to believe it. It's because if you think about it, people don't rise from the dead. People don't. That doesn't happen. Death is final. Someone to fully be risen, is something that's impossible. So when they physically see Jesus, they were seeing something they have never thought possible. And so it's natural for them to have doubts. Because usually in our world, if it's too good to be true, it generally isn't. It's like a customer told me yesterday. He said, well, I went to this store and they told me that my first month of service was going to be free. We don't have any offers like that at T-Mobile for free service for the first month for voice services. And I said, well, here's the deal. You're still within your first 30 days. I would go back to that store and see, hey, find out what's going on, because that might be something promotion. You know what? Make them make it right. And he said, well, I'm going to go do that. That's good, because he said, I told me that I wouldn't have to pay a bill for these 2 months. And he says, and yet here I am with a large bill. I said, well, because that's how it normally works. But it's because, like I said, it was too good to be true. And that's what we said. Well, I thought it was too good to be true. I said, well, sir, as in all things, if it's too good to be true, it generally is not. When they recognized him, that part. Dunn sees Matthew's mention of this doubt as genuine historical echo. Those who were there would never have forgotten the conflicting emotions and beliefs in that unique experience. Again, too good to be true. The fact that some of his disciples doubted argues against the theory that their seeing Jesus was simply a hallucination, born of a desperate desire to see him, that they had doubts. That even after physically seeing Jesus here and there, they still had doubts. Thomas said, I have to physically put my hand into his side and touch the nail prints. Jesus didn't have to have those on his actual perfected body, but he did that for the specific reason to remove all doubt. To say, this is not some fake. I am the real deal. And of course, we will conclude with next lesson next week. Providing Oklahoma doesn't surprise us with something.